last time we were just speaking of Jerome, we were talking about the unfortunate passing of artist DMX, and I know you were, talking about it. So let's just, recap it, from there, and your thoughts on, this passing of this amazing music artist.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really sad story. I mean, it's, rest in peace, Earl Simmons, DMX. I mean, he's definitely an icon, a legend, not only in hip hop but in music, but just entertainment in general. I mean, the dude was really, he was one of the most unique and influential artists of all time. I remember first being introduced to him when it's funny, like back in the day, like I said, I was at some like leadership camp or whatever, and then some of the people there, they were just like, it's funny, like, they actually were from Philly. For some reason, I used to think he was from Philly. I don't know why. And then, but that just showed like how big he was blowing up from. I mean, being from Yonkers, and then it just kept going everywhere. And then I was just like, who's this guy? Like that. The song was really unique. Like his voice is really unique. And yeah, I mean, then when I got his album, and almost every song on that album is great. I mean, it's such a classic. To me, it's like one of the best albums of all time. The first one he had, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. But yeah, that, and then just, I mean, banging out classics after that, and then transitioning to film, acting in a bunch of movies. I mean, pioneering the whole hip hop martial arts genre with Romeo Must Die, Exit Wounds, and Cradle to the Grave. And I think he had so much more to do. I mean, kept banging out, and I think he was getting better as an actor also. So he could have probably, been in, some other great movies, or done some better stuff. And I think what made him resonate so much also on the screen was because he's so passionate, so real, so authentic. And he really saved Def Jam at a time when hip hop was just not, was kind of going in a more pop direction, more shiny suit. Like there wasn't as much diversity at that time. Like, no one was really doing that rough, grimy stuff, and he kind of brought it back, and made it really popular. And obviously because he's unique in his voice and everything, but then also with Swiss Beats, like and Swiss Beats production, and like Swiss Beats owes everything to DMX because he really put him on. And obviously I know he's probably really hurting, but yeah, it's just crazy because the dude was he was so influential, and it's just sad because he's one of the few people from that era, of hip hop that I really enjoy. Like, that's really the music that I really listen to, the 90s era from, 93, 94 all the way to let's say 2003. That's really like my era that I would say I enjoy the most in hip hop. But yeah, he was definitely one of the most influential, and you could see with the artists that came after. And he also, like, his faith, he implemented that within his music, but I think in a way that was more authentic. It wasn't like being preachy or, and it was still good music. Like, that's the thing. All of his beliefs and everything that he put into his music, he put into his projects, it was authentic. It was him. He wasn't compromising. And, you have to take the good and the bad, because I mean, in real life, he also had obviously some issues he had to deal with. But
I was going to say, with that being said, and talk, and shining a light on everything that he accomplished in his career, just the second what you said, much of his music had such energy and such, he had such enthusiasm in many of the songs that he had, like all the songs in terms of like the feel and the emotions that that it was supposed to garner out of you. I felt that, just like you said, that word of authenticity, comes to mind, is that it was music that, got you, revved up. I remember a lot of times, I would use it as like workout music, a lot of the songs that he had, or, I remember a lot of the songs would perhaps play at ball games when I was in school.
Anthems, a lot of anthems.
He had a whole bunch of songs like that just like you said, were anthems that encompass, moods that, that you would have, and that are, very much a part of the human's psyche. I'm getting real deep on it, but the thing that, just on a simpler level, a lot of that music that he had, that a lot of folks remember him for, came at a time when I was like in grade school, and in high school. And, during that time, you're still trying to find your way and learning more about life, so to speak, and to, have music like that you feel, speaks to you, or provides much of like the energy that you have. I feel that it was like, I think that's the best word. Just he had a lot of songs that very much spoke to the masses and acted as anthems.
And I would say, oh yeah, sorry, not to cut it off, but like obviously he was big in hip hop, but it all transcended to like popular music, and that's the
film.
thing. And he didn't really have to. He didn't compromise anything. I mean, he was still the same. It's like not that many artists who were able to do that. And like even like with this shirt I'm wearing, look at that. Deadpool. Remember X Gonna Give It to You? Like that was Cradle to the Grave song, and then why was it in a Deadpool movie? That just showed how big like it's just.
I think I remember the director. He was commenting on and speaking kind of to what I was saying. Like he was saying this fits so perfectly into a Deadpool song because it has that that energy and that freneticness that you have with Deadpool. And then he also commented, at least on him on a personal level, that he says, I have so many DMX songs a part of my gym or my workout playlist to get me like hyped or to, get me in the mode of working out. So like, it played to that as well. Just as I was saying. So,
and I would also say the versatility. Also say like the versatility in the songs. Like it's true, he's known for a lot of these anthems, like Party Up and Rough Riders anthem, which is like I never get tired of that song.
Get it on the floor.
Get it on the floor. But also, but then he also had like songs for he had a great like R&B hip hop song. How's it going down? The song he did with Aaliyah, Back in One Piece. And even and then he had like spiritual type songs, stuff like Slippin', where you make he's talking about just how how life could be tough, and you got to keep going. Or he did a rendition of Ain't No Sunshine for Exit Wounds, I remember. And then he has like the real street stuff too, that gets you, and it's like, yeah, y'all, it's for the streets. But then he has like, he had a mix, but he was still being himself though. That's what was great. Like not everybody. Some people try to like sing when they can't really sing or whatever. That I'm not gonna mention it, but he can like. It is what it is. That's what hip hop is.
Right,
and that's the criticisms other artists have had. But like, I'm not saying people can't try to do that, but like he, even the more pop songs that he did, the ones that were really mainstream,
even when he ventured out into other genres,
he was still DMX.
Still like DMX.
Exactly, that was him. He was bringing himself to
his aesthetic. I think that's the best word. His aesthetic.
Yeah, and then he had like stuff straight up social commentary, like, and with the videos, like remember Who We Be. He was like, like everything in there was just like talking about like, and it's like, and he wasn't afraid to talk about like being broke or being from the, like where he came from. Some people, there's some rappers. There's a good population of the hip hop community where it's sad, where like all they talk about is how much money I got or whatever. It's like, yeah, he might. I don't even think he really talked about that much. That wasn't really like his thing, and it's like
I feel
he didn't need to talk about that when a lot of people were.
But he didn't. That wasn't his. It didn't feel like that was his focus. A lot of times it was just about dealing with, everyday, life related situations that you find yourself in, for better or for worse,
Exactly.
For better or for worse. I really truly mean that, for better or for worse, because obviously all of them, weren't the best situations, but still, as you said, that authenticity. So rest in power to DMX. You had such an influence and impact on not just the hip hop world, but on the music world. So as I said, entertainment world. So rest in power to DMX, passed away at 50. All right. So moving on to our next story. This shifts gears to a lighter note of some news that comes from by way of the MCU. In a story from Variety, we get news that there is a Hamilton alum that will be joining the Disney Plus series known as She-Hulk. So let me pull that up. 1 second. So this story out of Variety tells us that Renee Elise Goldsberry, and let me pull up the article, that she will be joining, as I said, joining the Disney Plus series She-Hulk. At this time, there's not really any indication of who she'll be playing. But, just to have that talent, someone with that versatile talent of being able to be a part of that talented ensemble of Hamilton and now joining Disney Plus. Jerome, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I actually knew her from The Good Wife. Like, I liked her on that show, and I knew that she's talented. And then, but when I did see Hamilton, I finally saw Hamilton on Disney Plus. Probably like a lot of other people during the pandemic last year. I was just like, oh wow. I mean, she was really talented in that, and showcased like her singing skills and everything. I mean, so it's just interesting seeing that, and then now being in She-Hulk, it's also it's really a testament to like the people in that production who acted in that, all the roles they're getting now. I mean, you look at obviously Lin-Manuel Miranda, he's been doing a bunch of stuff in movies and TV show, and then you had David Diggs, he had Blind Spotting, and then now Snowpiercer, and he's on a whole bunch of stuff. Leslie Odom Jr. He's in One Night in Miami, and he's getting cast in other stuff. And then same with Renee Elise Goldsberry, and there was that other, was Anthony, I think Anthony Ramos. Yeah, he's the guy who's going to be in The Heights, and so it's just showing like almost everyone. I mean, I know Christopher Jackson. He's been in some stuff too. So like, I think that's great though, because I'm not saying. I mean, I don't really follow theater as much as probably other people would, but it's really cool seeing almost everyone in that cast, or a lot of them are transitioning into all these big properties on film and TV. I don't know. I know about She-Hulk, and I think she's a cool character. I think the show should be interesting, but I'm not really like well versed in all of her villains and stuff. Even though I know there's some that kind of tie into Hulk, so that'll be kind of interesting to see if they could maybe do that. I don't know who maybe she'll be playing. Maybe she'll be a villain, maybe not. I know we were thinking maybe that could be maybe Titania, who
Yeah,
actually
I mean,
falls in
that
love
was one
with
of the characters
Absorbing
that I
Man.
was thinking of. I mean, so here's the thing. So with MCU, I know a lot of times they'll do a lot of, and I think we were talking about it off stage, is that they do a lot of gender swaps. I mean, we're seeing it right now with Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't feel like it's that much of telling too much, but I will put a disclaimer up there anyway as a spoiler. But the character, or should say the villain that we have in that series is a Flag Smasher, and instead of it being a male character, they're doing something unique with it where they have an entire squad that encompasses the ideals of that character, and their leader, instead of it being a male, is a female. However, with MCU, I've said it once, and I'll say it again. When it comes to their films, they don't really follow the comics to a T. They'll try to still keep the spirit of what the story was about, or the intentions of that character. But they have a tendency to kind of, and I think it's a good thing too, because it helps with expectations too, where you're able to bring some new energy or some new light to a character. Whether you do a gender swap, whether you do a different race for the character, as long as it keeps and we were talking about it before, as long as it keeps the aesthetic of that character, I don't see why a character can't change genders or change races. I don't know what your thoughts on it, but again, like I said, as long as it keeps that, then I feel you're still getting what you're expecting from that character. Like you, I'm not super well versed with many of the characters, or to say, I'm not super well versed with the rogues gallery of She-Hulk. But just as you were saying, because I know we were, trying to look up some of the villains in trying to make a guesstimation of someone that she could play, if it is indeed a villain, and she may very well not be a villain, is Titania, or they could go another route and pick another character. I think that I saw within that rogues gallery. I think they had a female version of Absorbing Man. And they may go that route. I know for a fact that they do have Abomination already coming. So if Abomination is already in there,
but Abomination, remember, he was in the first Hulk movie, and Absorbing Man was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I guess I don't know.
But remember, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not canon because they agree. They basically they had they had the Darkhold in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but they basically retconned it into the MCU. Again, sorry, spoilers.
I haven't watched all of
the
last season, so I don't know. But I'm just saying. But I remember I'm just saying the seasons I was watching. I haven't watched the last few seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'm just saying, like, they were, at least the TV show was saying they were in the world. So you're right. Maybe, I mean, the movies don't acknowledge it. That's true. We didn't see Coulson come back. We didn't see Coulson go back into the movies. That's true. We haven't seen Agent Phil Coulson come back.
I was gonna say, but they could always just say, a quick fix to that. They can just say that the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. universe is another dimension.
Well, that's what. They can do that now with anything, with the whole time travel and all. It's like
they have a quick fix with that now to do that.
Well, just like Mahershala Ali being Cottonmouth, and then now it'll be Blade, but whatever.
But
I mean, that's what happens.
But I was gonna say,
yeah.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just to answer what you were saying, like my thoughts. I think that I don't have a problem either with them changing the race or the gender of some characters. I just think when it's like a well-known character, like if you're more of like A-lister, maybe slightly B-lister, it might be harder to if there's a lot of other events or anything.
On that character?
Well, not just well, I mean, I think it has to do with like how well known it is, because a lot of maybe there's some She-Hulk fans out there or whatever might be like, what are you talking about? But honestly, She-Hulk, she really wasn't like, she's kind of like a C-list character or what, she's not, I would say she's probably C-list. And like her villains, whatever, I think most people don't know who her villains are, her rogues gallery. Maybe people, like, if you gotta be a super comic book geek, and even if you're hardcore into it, I think that's like, there's different fandoms within Marvel, but I think you can get away with it if it's a lesser known character. And like, I'm Heimdall. I didn't even know about Heimdall. I was like, Idris Elba, he's great, but he was white. And but who cares? It's like, he's not, well known. Now, if you made Thor black, it might be hard.
But here's the thing, like, I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, like, I still say the same thing, because I mean, a good example of that is, and don't get me wrong, like, I love this Vincent D'Onofrio's
Mark Clark
iteration. Yeah, I love his interpretation of Kingpin. Like, I think it's great. However, like, one of the best things about that Daredevil movie was Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin. Before we even had Vincent D'Onofrio, up for that role, I remember that there were a lot of people saying, okay, what are we going to do about, Michael Clark Duncan? I mean, how are you going to put Kingpin in there? Because, he was an awesome Kingpin. So again, I think it just comes down to, do you embody those characteristics that the character brings? And do you bring that same energy? Because I know I can't remember where I read it, and then it essentially allows you to still effectively have the spirit of the character. Is now that we have the MCU, how are you necessarily going to do Magneto or Professor X? And considering what their their background is with Magneto being in concentration camps, and now considering modern day, if you still try to go with that storyline, he would be decrepit. And that character would be decrepit. and wouldn't really be able to function, as a major character within the MCU to, an active character, I should say, within the MCU. Like, you would have to modernize
Be another
that
country.
somehow.
They can make a fictional country. I mean, it's
Well,
like
that's what I'm
Sarko.
saying. Like, well, you
That's
would
fine.
have to modernize it in some type of way. And I know a couple of theories that I've heard out there, and I'm brain farting on what place I heard what the source was, but the interest. No, I'm saying, like, an interesting way to go about it is, if you decide to do a race swap of that character, you can still do that by using, the civil rights movement as a basis instead of using concentration camps as a basis. And you could have both Professor X and Magneto be black instead of being white, and you can still embody those same ideas or ideals, what have you, with those characters and their different ideologies of, having a more pacifist approach to a more militant approach. And I mean, we've already seen, it's already been explained, I feel, to death, of like that difference of kind of that Malcolm X ideology and perspective versus the Malcolm X approach, or not Malcolm X, the Martin Luther King approach, excuse me. So that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King divide in terms of that approach to get to the same, destination during that era. And what if you had those two characters come from those bases? I mean, you would still have that perspective of both of these characters coming from a time where there was a lot of, division and violence, and how, kind of dissecting how each one would respond to that. Who would they grow up to be based on the experiences that they've had? It would, bring you in the same into the similar conclusion that you would have, in the same way that you would have with Magneto and, his background. So there's still a way to do it. I guess my long-winded way of saying, there's still a way to do it without having to do everything to a T to what you have in the comics. You can use it as inspiration, obviously, but in terms of that adaptation piece, there's so many possibilities of what you can do to still embody what that character stands for, yet still try to modernize it in the current lens that we have now. So with that being said, we only have one last story that I wanted to get into.
Well, I just want to talk. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the only reason I disagree for probably those characters is just because I think there's some that are so well established, and it's possible, but I feel like there are specific characters that were created, and their ethnicity or their race was part of that character because of their history. And and obviously, yes, I get it. There's not as much, of course. The people who created a lot of these characters before, mainly, you had a lot of white people doing it. So you had a lot of characters that look like them, and then eventually it became more progressive. And I totally understand that there should be more diversity. I don't know. I'm just of the. I just feel like to me it'd be more interesting and more unique and more compelling if you have a character that people don't know as well, and then it becomes another really compelling and interesting new character that is diverse, and then that becomes a new one. Because to me it's the same with like the Black Superman thing. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's like I'd rather there be another African American character that people don't know as well, and then that becomes a new, like we still haven't done like a Black Green Lantern and the DC, and there, John Stewart is an important one. I mean, it's almost like with Black Panther. It's like, obviously on Marvel side, like Black Panther was already well known and should have been a big superstar, and he became a superstar even more. And it's like, obviously there's limited. I mean, Black Panther would never be, of course, you would never have they would never change that ethnicity because that's specifically connected to Wakanda and that background. But like I said, that's integral to the character. I just feel like for the lesser known characters, maybe you get away with that, but just when it's like, unless it's like, like with Spider-Man, like then they had Miles Morales, like that's cool. I don't know. I guess for me, it's like even some of the bigger characters too. I don't want to see like just new reiterations. I just, me personally, I'd rather just see newer characters. Like, hey, I mean, Apocalypse, he's Middle Eastern. He could be black. I mean, he's from Egypt. I mean, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of. I just feel like I rather, to me, it's like, I guess another thing for me is like, I'm just tired of seeing the same characters trying to be remade. Like, I don't want to see another version of some of these characters also. Like, I mean, I know they're going to have to bring it in, but it's like, if you want to, for me, it's like, I just feel like it's a waste of time and effort, just recycling something to just try to change it now when there's so many other characters that just no one knows about. And you can make the, it's like it's the same with like Iron Man or Captain America, Iron Man or Captain America or Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, just a lot of those characters were like C-list, and then now they became A-list because Robert Downey Jr. made Iron Man more popular. Nick Fury, even, like, obviously he was white before. We had David Hasselhoff in that, but then they made him. They had a black version in the comics, and Sam Jackson has embodied. I mean, obviously it was based off of his look or whatever, and then they switched it up, but. Like that, he's Nick Fury now. People think of, it's embodied that.
I say two things on that. One, to the point that you're making about, having fatigue of seeing the same characters. I completely understand that, which is why I bring up that idea of modernizing it and not telling the same story. I mean, there are only but so many times you can see Bruce Wayne lose his parents. There are only but so many times.
I know, for real.
You can see Uncle Ben bite the bullet.
Play it out.
And Spider-Man, completely embody, with great power comes great responsibility. There are only but so many times you can see that. So that's why, like, to further your point is to modernize them in some way where we aren't seeing the same iteration on that point. And then I did want to say something on what you were just saying. You were saying that with the comment you were just making, I know there was one point that I wanted to touch on.
Nick Fury.
With Nick Fury. Yeah. So like with that instance, what I wanted to say is that a lot of that was down to circumstance, just based on, and I mean, this with what happened with Marvel and them trying to stay afloat by giving away the rights to a lot of their A-list characters. So I mean, if that hadn't happened, I'm sure very well they would have started with their A characters. Things worked out. Don't get me wrong. Things worked out with them being able to shine a light on their lesser known characters, and it ended up working out for them. But trust me, if we were to rewind the clock and they had the option of starting with those those A, B-list characters, they would have started with them, and we wouldn't have had the MCU that we had today. So, sometimes you just have serendipitous things that happen like that really work out. You just have that synergy. Everything falls in line at the right time where things just, work out, which I feel, happened in that circumstance. But if they had the option, if we were to go back in time and they had the option to do those well-known characters, they would have. And if they're going to do those well-known characters, why not kind of temper expectations by going a different way with it instead of going exactly the way that we're expecting from a prior iteration or translation of that character. I mean, that's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, but the thing is, but I will say on that, like, you see how MCU because they took those B-list characters, whatever. Like, now they have so many that are A-list, so it's like they have more to play with it they can change up. So it's like, that's all I'm just saying. In the end, I think that transcends everything. Because like we were talking about Blue Marvel, they haven't done that yet. But he's like, that is specifically a character that is African American and his history is linked to that. Like, I'd rather see that movie than trying to remake you know what I'm saying? Like, I love X-Men and everything, and there's other characters like. I mean, you do have Bishop and you have Storm. Like, you could do that another way. And then there's other characters. There's Forge. I mean, I don't know. And there's spin-offs. I'm just saying. So it's like I just feel like I want to see. I think is I just rather I don't care what company or what property you are, whatever properties are there. It's like I just want to see more newer characters become more share. It's just like actors. Like I like we all love we love Denzel, we love Tom Cruise or whoever or Stallone or whatever. But I want to, instead of just seeing them all in the same movies, I want to see who's going to be the next Denzel. Who's going to be, like that's partially I'm sure why they cast Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther as opposed to like some well-known name. But Chadwick Boseman, he got elevated to another level by being Black Panther. So, and Marvel's good at doing that too. They're take some like Tom Cruise was supposed to be Iron Man. Imagine he was Iron Man. But no, they took Robert Downey Jr. and they elevate, so I like seeing people become stars. So I'm just saying that's just my personal preference in general for any of these characters. But I do get what you're saying, and it's like I think you can have a happy medium, but you do got to remember though, you also got to look at it's that dance with the audience too, because it's like you, you want to manage those expectations, because I just feel like people can't the expectations, you can manage the expectations better if people don't know who the character is. It's like even with Blade, I remember when Blade came out, it's like he wasn't that well known either. But the thing is, Wesley Snipes made Blade, and that's another thing too. Like Blade, you have a great character, there's just
But you know what? You see, that goes to my point though of what I was saying with the modernization piece. Can you imagine how that film would have worked if they used like the kind of the goofy get up that he uses
with the afro and all,
with the afro,
I get that.
like,
no, that's true.
All of that. So,
but that's still part of but I'm saying like that still was an unknown character that is that was obviously it was African American, but it's like they elevated Blade. Blade is like everyone knows who Blade is now. Like he's a household name now. Now they're redoing it. So I'm just saying it's like there are characters out there that I rather them highlight those and make those guys superstars first before we even think of doing the whole let's remake everything. But I mean everyone has their own preference, but that's just my personal opinion in general for anything. So anyway, I know we keep going.
But so with that being said, yeah, we could obviously go on and on about many of these topics. We're both passionate about many of these topics. But with that being said, before we go, Jerome, can you tell folks where they can find you, man?
So you can find me on Twitter at Liam Productions, Instagram at Liam Productions 21. And obviously, you can like and subscribe us at Movers Shakers Unlimited on what is it on Facebook, on YouTube, Move and Shake UNLTD on Twitter, and just check us out. And I know we have a show going on. We're doing a show tomorrow, right? Well, now I'm not gonna be on it, but you're good.
Yeah, so we have 2 shows that are happening tomorrow. So we do have another episode of Debrief, the Falcon and Winter Soldier chat. As you know, every single week I've tried to mix it up and have different guest hosts come on and share their thoughts. First week we had some of our own teams. So we had Josh and Chris. Week 2 So week 1 I had Josh. Week 2 I had Josh and Chris, and then this past week I had Ben Penrod, who many of you guys who are here in the DC metropolitan area or even East Coast perhaps. He is the founder of AwesomeCon. I do have another special guest coming on this week and even going into week 5 because this is a 6-episode series. And then lastly, for the finale, we will have a round table. So stay tuned for that one for sure. But other than that, we do also have an episode of American Gods for you guys to enjoy, even though the show is gone. Which you will learn about later. It is gone. I'll put up quotation marks. There is a reason why I'm putting up quotation marks, which you will learn tomorrow. We do have a cast member, Yatidi Badake, who will be joining us. It was pre-recorded, so but it will be airing during that time that we normally have that show, which is at 6 o'clock. So again, Falcon and Winter Soldier debrief, that will happen at 11 a.m. Tomorrow. So that will be 8 o'clock for those of you on the West Coast. And then, as I said, 6 o'clock for the AG chat that we have with Emily Whitten. She does an awesome job with that show. And then, yeah, other than that, just stay tuned. We have a whole bunch of things. If you guys have been keeping track of the website, we also have a recent interview with the composer of the Disney Plus series, Secrets of the Whales. So, you guys can enjoy that now. That's on our website and also on our YouTube channel. But just as Jerome said, he gave the Twitter and Instagram rundown. You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Troy ENT, which you are looking right there. And then Brandon Troy _ENT on Instagram. So with that being said, guys, thanks so much for watching. Be safe out there, and till next time. Peace.
Peace.